Hello and welcome to Not Another Football Podcast. I'm Luke, this is Ollie. We're here each week to talk the Premier League, and for a change, I am quite unhappy this week, Ollie, after the game today. Liverpool v United obviously ended in a 2-2 draw. Before I go on a mini rant, I guess, on certain situations to do with that game, you being the unbiased opinion, you can go first, obviously. Chelsea fan, for those who don't know, so don't really have a horse in the race.
Yeah, you were pretty poor in comparison, and probably in the end lucky to come away with a point, especially after you were saying, not you personally, but lots of people saying like how many you were gonna beat.
I hate
them
that, by the way.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? You never want that, and like we said it a million times before, especially with any derby, but particularly Liverpool, Man United, the form book goes out the window for those fixtures. So
100%.
the people who are saying that are absolute idiots, which I'm sure you agree with.
I do, because, mate, I mean, I grew up in a time where the Fergie United were dominant and we'd still beat them. When we were, I mean, granted, okay, maybe not to this extent, but I'm pretty sure actually in the season where Roy Hodgson said we weren't too big to go down after losing at home to Blackpool, when Kenny came in the second half of the season, we beat him. And Kaut got a hat-trick, I think, in that game. I think that's the right year. But, you know, that just shows how doesn't really, like you said, the form book goes out the window, and very difficult to be so confident where you just think you're going to steamroll a team. I think Carragher touched on that as well, and it did have a feel to that at the start of the game.
Yeah, they certainly looked better and more confident in the shape. Obviously, a big part of their downfall in recent weeks, or particularly the Newcastle game, was where they were at in terms of the players that they had for midfield. So changing that was, you know, as long as Amorim didn't play that team again, which he never was going to do, then they were always going to be a much stronger outfit. And that certainly told in terms of the balance that they had through the team. Like, I thought they straight the ball around really well, worked some good opportunities. But I mean, I feel like I'm saying the most obvious thing ever, not giving masses of insight here, but it was just down that your right hand side where you were just so open. I mean, you're going to speak about Trent in a second, I'm sure, and probably everybody is going to speak the same, just like Roy Keane, but he was so absent during that game. It was unbelievable compared to where he's been at so far this season. And I thought that, like, Højlund he should have buried that chance in the first half to take it to 1-0. How he did was really poor, and that probably shows where they're at in terms of the quality that they've signed versus the money that they've spent. Go on to Jackson in a second, I'm sure, when we come to Chelsea, but £70 million for Højlund, he never looks like he's going to be a £70 million striker for me. And then when you turned it around against 2-1, I thought you were fortunate to get into that position, and then lucky to hold on to it, I guess, at the end. I don't know if it would have been offside for
the Harry Maguire.
If he'd scored that anyway. But concerning, I guess. Signs of a little bit of concern for Liverpool, but I guess major positives is, which we'll come to in a second, but Arsenal drawing. So yeah, what are your thoughts? How big was your rage against Trent Alexander-Arnold? And do you feel like people are trying to have finally found gaps in Liverpool's team, or just an off day?
No, I honestly don't want to be over the top, but Trent cost us today massively. Like, literally, he was the reason that we blew 3 points, essentially. Because even though not playing the best, we still should have seen out that game, and he's at fault for both goals. He's massively at fault. And also, if you see the way he's just ambling about the pitch when he has to defend. I mean, we haven't seen this for like a couple of seasons now, where he was just walking. I mean, look at that. The first goal, Bruno Fernandes. It's his guy. He sees him inside, but then Gravenberch follows the runner, whoever is in there. Granted, this is all pretty much slow motion as well. And Trent just ambles, lets him go inside. Doesn't think, oh, wait, there's the Sandro Martinez who's got goal-sided defence here in my position. Maybe I should tuck on the cover to make sure that pass is cut out. No.
Mm.
You even see when the ball gets played through to Martinez, whatever, Butcher, apparently. He glances to his left to have a look to see, like, expecting, that's where Trent's going to be coming, because he must have took back round. No, did he balls? Mate, he was shocking, and he was terrible going forward. So obviously it highlights it even more. And he's been fantastic for us this season. But I'm sorry, if his head from the, I mean, we have to speculate that it's from the Real Madrid bid coming in, or and then there was rumours that Liverpool have offered a new contract this week to him. If he's playing like that because of these bids, we have to give him an ultimatum. We have to go to Trent and say, look, you need to make a decision. Are you leaving or are you staying at the end of the season? Because we're not going to sell you in January. Are you leaving or staying? Right, you're leaving. Okay, that's fine. Well, let's announce it, get out of the way. Or, even if you don't announce it, tell him to fucking sort his head out if he wants to go for the title with us, or just play Bradley. Drop him. Yeah. Because I'm sorry, you've seen it. When Bradley came on, just desire to try and defend. It made such a difference. And it was only on for 11 minutes because of the 7 minutes added on. Trent won, one duel he won in 86 minutes. Bradley won his first duel within a minute of coming on. Oh my God, man. And he's a local lad. Look, if it's a foreign player and they come in and the head's turned and they're thinking about leaving, don't know about the future, and it's all Liverpool's biggest game still, and you go, look, right, you can maybe make the excuse. Foreign players, they don't care as much. It's a local lad. It's Liverpool's biggest rival, biggest game. It shouldn't matter. You should be fucking all in that game. Not walking around the pitch like you couldn't give a shit. Oh my God, mate, I had a proper head loss watching the game, as you can tell. I mean, this is semi, but Virgil van Dijk looked like he wanted to throttle him, and so did I, to be honest.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I guess the positives are that you've got a ready-made right back in Bradley that could come in and do a really good job. He is, from the bits that obviously you've watched him way more closely than I have. And I had the pleasure of watching him produce a masterclass in that Carling Cup final. Not the Carling Cup final. What's it called?
The league game.
The League Cup final. Yes.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, the final. Yeah. He played well against you in the league as well, to be fair.
Yeah, he did. Had both of those joyous occasions of him. He looks, like a stellar player. And like you say, I guess they just need to come to a decision very quickly, and then if his head's not with it, then you just play Bradley for the rest of the season.
Has to.
I mean, it will damage you slightly, but
yeah, because don't get me wrong. Obviously, Trent's ability going forward, second to none. Bradley, though, as the stereotypical fullback bombing on, is still very good going forward. He's not Trent's levels. Don't get me wrong, but he gives you more defensively. So then. Obviously, if they're in the right headspaces, you go Trent. It's a no-brainer. But if Trent is putting in performances mate, we got Forest and Brentford away next in the league. I know we've got we got Spurs and then we got Accrington Stanley Cups. He can't rock up to the City ground and what is it called, the G-Tech Stadium, whatever it's bloody called at Brentford. You can't have two difficult away games and him rocking up playing like that. Just can't. You're gonna have to play Bradley otherwise. Bradley looks very good. He would give us different options. And yeah, it all depends on where Trent's head's at, because ultimately we were pretty shocking across the pot. Don't get me wrong. A lot of players could have taken the criticism and still will. I mean, look at Robbo. Unfortunately, it's been a season now where for Robertson that I don't know if it's his age. He just looks a little off it. He's not as sharp. Obviously, his whole game is on being aggressive on the front foot and quick. So he'll nip in and get the ball. He's just that little bit slower now, so he doesn't nip in. And honestly, as a Liverpool fan, I've seen that goal so many times, their second goal, where the right fullback, I know the way it played out, it was Konate who went out there and Trent tucked in on the cover as a centre-back. But the right fullback doesn't stop the cross. It comes across the box, and Andy Robertson's a little bit late to react, trying to follow the winger coming in, gets a simple goal in the end, essentially. That has happened way too often, and compound that with the rest of Robertson's play this season. Tsimikas isn't the guy, so we need to make a sign in there. So yeah, there's another player who could come under criticism. I guess the positives, like you said, if you're looking at it, Arsenal drew, thankfully. And we didn't lose the game considering how poor it was. And yet, this is why I say if Bradley would have started, I think we'd have won today, because when we went 1-0 down in that 15-minute spell, I mean, we weren't even like scintillating best, but we just upped the game. We scored 2 goals. I know one of them's a pen, but the pressure was coming. Then obviously, classic football, you sort of sit back again, try and hold what you got. Again, problems down the right-hand side cost us. I think Slot should have took him off way earlier than he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's infuriating. Obviously, 6 points ahead, game in hand, still happy, obviously, with that. Not losing my head in terms of title race or anything like that. It's just really disappointing because it feels like, could it be seeds of doubt with games coming up with certain players? And it was a big opportunity to extend that lead at the top.
Yeah, I think it's going to be big to see what you do in the transfer market in January, because you've been crying out for a left back all season. I think you've said about Robertson on numerous occasions, and like you say, he's one of those players that plays on the front foot, that likes to nip in and be aggressive in his defensive style. And if you lose that half yard of pace, it just kills that. It makes all the difference, and it kills your game there from the back. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether they back Slot and go into the transfer market for a left back.
I think they will. I think the only problem really is, I mean, the left backs we've been linked with have been like Robinson from Fulham, Kirkres from Bournemouth, and there is another left back for some reason. Alphonso Davies, but that's at the end of the season. But again, just for those two, because I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But those two left backs, are Bournemouth and Fulham likely to sell them in January? Probably not. It's going to be way more difficult to get a deal done, just the way football is. And they're pretty much their standout performers this season. Obviously, Bournemouth, Fulham both had good seasons. Many stand out, but their left backs just both happen to be doing very well. So it just makes it difficult. And I'm concerned for the next 2 games in the league with Forest away and Brentford away. That is difficult on paper. It's going to be 2 of the most difficult away games that you're going to get this season, really. So we need to, if we bounce back with a couple of wins or even 4 points, I think it won't be the end of the world. But I am really concerned with the Trent situation. I just, if that creeps in and starts derailing our season like that, then yeah, we got big problems.
I mean, that was always the threat on the reverse of the contracts, right? Is that players, start to lose focus or interest, and it has an impact in regards to their performance. Now, that hasn't happened for any of those 3 players up until now, but that's always the bigger risk, and probably the one that you were looking at the start of the season, going, that's the biggest challenge for Slot.
Yeah,
it hasn't impacted him thus far, but yeah, I think going back to those 2 or 3 players that you were potentially linked with, that's why I think it would be a big statement, because you'll have to go outside of your comfort bracket and pay way over the odds for somebody. But it could be the difference in guaranteeing the title or not. And what is the desire to do that? Is it the desire to break the structure a little bit and pay over the odds and get somebody in? Or is it to keep within the structure and take the risk, I guess, that you'll be fine with Robertson? It's a big risk.
I mean, theoretically, we should still win the league even with Robertson. But yeah, if you could work some deals in the window, get rid of Simicas, bring in a little fee for him maybe, and then put that towards, like you said, going to Bournemouth and just putting the bid there, paying maybe slightly over the odds than you would have that you could negotiate in the summer. But ultimately, you strengthen your squad and you strengthen the first team. And it strengthens us for consolidating our top spot, which we should do anyway. But it might actually, I know it could be a big thing to say, but these things might actually be the difference in winning a Champions League. Because if you get an informed left back in and he's on it and he hits the ground running, then you're not having to rely on someone who already looks like, I mean, I seen someone put out there, Robertson's had like 5 out of 10 performances for the last 6 games in a row, and it does really feel like that. It just feels like a weakness. And then, Trent getting highlighted as bad as he did today, yeah, compounds misery. But I want to move on from him. He's doing my head in. Local lad, man, make your decision. Jesus Christ. But anyway, right.
Well, I've had to wait all this time for a meltdown, so
Yeah, yeah, it's a mini meltdown because obviously we're still top and cushy. We just, need to improve on that.
Do you want to segue into another meltdown in terms of Chelsea, or is there anything else you would like to discuss about
Just
Liverpool?
very quickly before you do go into the Chelsea one, because obviously Liverpool impacted by the Arsenal result. I only wanted to quickly ask, do you think it was a penalty, Saliba on João Pedro?
No, probably not.
You don't think it was? I was surprised.
What do you think?
I thought it was for the fact of, I know it hits his head, but it hits his head after João Pedro's already headed it, and it hits the top of his head, and then it classes into the side of him. So the way I see it is, if João Pedro had gone to beat him in the box and chipped the ball over his foot, and it caught his thigh, but his foot then, studs went into the side of his ankle, they're given a penalty for that.
Yeah.
There's no debate. And that's kind of how I see it. Even though João Pedro, because he's put his head down into him and he's hit the top of his head, well, he's not cleanly won the ball, really, has he?
Yeah.
He's got lucky from circumstances and then smashed into the side of João Pedro's head. So,
Well, João Pedro got lucky the week before
with the elbow.
That's a disgrace. How they didn't get that as a red card is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, he'd have been banned for this game as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's banned for probably 3-game ban for that. It was horrendous.
That was a red card as well. I don't know how they ever decided that wasn't. It didn't make connection.
On the replay.
Oh, yeah, but the intent, mate.
Yeah, but still, if I go to swing and hit you and I miss, then
it's all right.
So,
hey, calm down, lad. Calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. Maybe we disagreed on that, but ultimately, they dropped points, so I'm quite lucky. But let's go into your meltdown. Come on, Chelsea.
Okay, so Chelsea meltdown. So we haven't covered off. Have we covered off the Ipswich game thus far? I don't think we have. Have we?
No.
Okay, so the Ipswich game is a good depiction of where we're at currently in regards to the front line. And Chelsea's obviously strongest suit has been, the goals that we scored towards the start of the season, and that's been masking what has been lower quality performances at the back. Like, we seem so far away from ever keeping a clean sheet, and if we do it, I don't know the stats exactly. I probably should have them to hand, but I think we've probably only kept 1 or 2 clean sheets in the last 10 games, which is not title winning form, and it's not even, top 4 form. So we're reliant upon those strikers putting in the mass opportunities that we're creating, and it seems that all of the fears around the front line are coming true, with the exception of Palmer, who seems, is incredibly consistent in terms of his goal scoring. So Jackson has fallen off an absolute cliff. He missed, there was 2 golden opportunities yesterday, but he missed 3 or 4 outside of that. Like, he's really out of form. And
he missed a good one against Everton, didn't he, as well? I know it was a few weeks back, but yeah.
Yeah. And Neto, the criticism you'd say with Neto is, again, he's not a massively high scoring goal scoring winger. Like, he's effective and he's great in terms of putting the ball into the box for assists, but you only obviously get those assists if your striker or your wingers are coming on top of those and getting the goals in. And then Sancho as well, he's never been prolific in terms of his output from a goal scoring perspective in the Premier League. Like, he hasn't got high numbers there yet to be proven, and obviously you can still get better with all of those players. So, and then you go a step further back and you look at Caicedo and Enzo, outside of Enzo's little run, they're not massively high-scoring, goal-scoring midfielders. So the only place that the goals are coming from is from Palmer, and one goal just isn't enough from him. So we need to be scoring 2 or 3 with the back line that we've got. I think we've really been impacted by, over the last 2, 3, 4 games, really, the absence of Lavia, because I did think that we found a really good balance in terms of playing Caicedo at right back and Lavia into midfield. Like I thought we saw the very best of Enzo as a result of that, and we were still protecting a lot more of the back four and leaving them less exposed. What is
wrong with Lavia?
I think still his hamstring injuries, the same persistent issues that he's had since the start. But there's no word as to when he will come back to the squad. So then, you're playing with gusto, and it rings true a little bit about what you were saying in regards to Robertson with fullback. When your fullback's just a little bit off it, has a big difference, and he has been well off it this season. So maybe Reece James coming back, that will make a big difference. But yeah, I think worrying signs. It reminds me a little bit of the Enzo Maresca situation at Leicester last season, where he couldn't quite find the solutions and persisted with the same team. Obviously, we can't afford that to happen for as long as it did against Leicester. We'll be
weirdly
well out of it, so.
The fans turned on him at Leicester a little bit, didn't they? They were booing and stuff. They were like top of the league, though. It's very weird.
Yeah. I think that was more to do with the style of play and kind of their frustrations. I definitely don't think there's those frustrations at Chelsea, but massive 2 points dropped. And yeah, concerning really, because I just don't see with those, if those wingers and those strikers, are going to be consistently out of form, then you're relying upon Palmer to score 2 goals. It's just
it's a lot to ask for, isn't it?
It's a lot. There's a lot to rely on.
Week in, week out.
Yeah. Josh Asiempong, I'm going to pronounce that badly, but I'll just refer to him as Josh moving forward. At least he started, to be fair, in Sarsi or Disaster was dropped. So that is good news. But
is that across the board with Chelsea fans with Disaster?
I think only unless they're Chelsea fans that are blind, then yes.
Yes.
suggest so, yeah.
So maybe about top 4?
I am worried about top 4. I'm massively worried about top 4, and I actually think that they 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, if you'd asked me, do we need to sign anybody in January, obviously I would have said absolutely no chance, don't rock the boat. But I actually think they might be half tempted to go in for Osimhen in January again. Like, they were very close to making that deal towards the end of August. I don't think he's absolutely loving it in the Turkish Super League. So I think we could easily do that. And I do feel like we need some firepower up front, because if Jackson's continues to be out of form to the end of the season, we won't get in the top 4.
Yeah, that's going to obviously impact you greatly, especially like you said as well. It's not like you've got the tightest of defenses and the best goalkeeper, so you're not scraping the games 1-0. So when the rest of the forward or front line are having a down day and Palmer does step up like yesterday, gets the goal, you don't see it out, and then you're like, okay, you know what, we weren't great, but defensively we're sound, we got away, we move on. Whereas, you're in the boat where you need your 2s and 3s really to be winning most of their games, which obviously just means that the likelihood is you drop more and more points. If that should still be good enough for top 4, obviously, it's so close. It feels
so
like
close, and there's emerging teams coming now all of the time. Like Villa got that late winner, Newcastle won. Who knows what's going to happen against Spurs in terms of them. Both of those teams have finished in the top 4 in the previous 2 seasons. Chelsea haven't. So I am concerned, and I do think they will step into the market.
And you got the worry of City coming back. Got a couple of wins.
Well, that's inevitable, isn't it? That was always going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely looking very difficult season to secure. It's so mad though, because literally, I know we briefly.
It shouldn't be though, should it?
I know, because we touched on it before the
plate.
podcast. Yeah, I mean, literally 2.5 weeks ago, whatever it was, you win in the early kickoff. You go above us. You go first before we played West. No, it wasn't West Ham. Before we played Spurs. Now, fast forward like 2 weeks, I said, or whatever it was. It's how many points is it? 10 between us. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
In and around maybe like between 8 and 10 off the top of my head. And I know we've got the game in hand. But that is crazy how quickly that's turned.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've scored 2 goals in 4 games. It's horrendous.
Yeah.
against Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, and I'm putting the result out of my mind. Palace. Yeah, all of those teams, you think you'd be able to score more than 2 goals against them. It's not. Yeah.
It's the classic as well, isn't it? When everyone looks at a fixture list and goes, "Well, that's a good run," and they drop points. That's a good run. Yeah, that's what I hate about the Liverpool stuff, though, because you see the game in hand and everyone just assumes you've won it. It's like, nah, get the points on the board. These fixtures, they throw up the curveballs that you don't expect.
They do. Yeah, it's been a frustrating December period. Usually Chelsea throw it away in November. That's what I've been used to over the previous 5 or 6 seasons. But we've decided to push it out to December. So let's see how we get on. We've got Morecambe next, so maybe score a few more goals in that one.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that's probably a good place to leave it. If you are listening to us on Spotify, share the podcast, as that'll help get the podcast out there. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts on topics we covered today. So until next week, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.